other folks in the procurement and contract business are also being accountable as well too, so that we're protecting taxpayers. And so over the last year or so, we've seen an RCMP investigation. We've seen an Auditor General's providing a report. We've seen a procurement ombudsman delve deep into the procurement and contract system. Our very own OGGO committee has had numerous meetings. ArriveCan, for example, 64 witnesses, McKinsey, 59 witnesses. There's been a privacy commissioner report. A public sector integrity commissioner has been asked to look into it. CBSA has done its own integrity investigation. And now, obviously, we have Global Affairs Canada as well, to proactively looking at contracts and procurement. So a tremendous level of scrutiny. Thus far, what we found, what all of that work has found, is that more documentation is required. So we've seen gaps in documentation. We need stronger record keeping, especially around decisions, around the decisions that are made around contracts. And what we haven't found is any political interference in all the investigations and studies that we've done. We've seen no political interference in the contracts. So that's sort of the state of play that we're in. And it's interesting, over the last year and a half, the biggest whopper or revelation that we've seen is actually from today, when we saw the Conservative Party, a report in the CBC states that the Conservative Party is actually abusing taxpayers by charging them, by billing them $426,000 for partisan political activity, which anyone that's been an MP for any measurable period of time knows that it is illegal. It is outside of the rules to charge House of Commons budget and the taxpayer for clearly partisan and political events. And here the Conservative Party has been found out. They've been misappropriating taxpayer funding and abusing the taxpayer. And really, this is robbery in what I would describe as robbery in plain sight, basically sending taxpayers the bill for purely political, partisan, conservative events. And I think that's something that my colleagues around this table really need to respond to. And I certainly hope that they delve into this misappropriation of taxpayer funds. This is a serious issue. Now, my question to our officials from Global Affairs. So in the United States, we've seen over the last number of months, we've seen the MAGA Republicans blocking military aid to Ukraine in the U.S. Congress. And what that has done, that has placed Ukraine at a disadvantage. We're seeing Russia making military advances right now in Ukraine. So that's MAGA Republicans in the U.S. On the Canadian side, we saw the leader of the opposition and the Conservative Party try to block.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Sorry, excuse me, Mr. Kuzmierczuk. Mrs. Block, go ahead.
Yes, point of order. I know this member has trouble sticking to the matters at hand when it comes to his interventions. I would simply point out relevance to his intervention so far, as it lines up with the study or the questioning of the witnesses before us on the audit report.
Thanks very much. It is Mr. Kuzmierczuk's time if he wishes to go on for this. That is
thank you, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
And so again, in the U.S., we saw MAGA Republicans blocking military aid to Ukraine. In Canada, we're seeing MAGA conservatives trying to block support for the Ukrainian free trade deal. And I just wanted to ask our global affairs officials whether this is something that perhaps you would be looking at, the contracts that you have to the consultants. Is this the type of issues that would be looked at by perhaps some of these consultants, looking at what the impact is on support for Ukraine and the possible impact on the war in Ukraine?
Thank you very much for the question. I'm not aware of any any contracts in that area that I could really speak to.
Okay, no problem. So I wanted to move on to my next question then. In the Globe and Mail last year, there was an article that was titled, "Germany's far right isn't on the doorstep of power, it's already arrived." And it was talking about the alarming level of support for far right parties like the Alternative for Germany, which is the AfD party. What we've seen is, again, conservative MPs.
Mr. Kuzmierczak, you're out of time. Can you wrap up with a question?
Oh, sure. I just wanted to say last year we saw conservative MPs having lunch with the extremist AfD party.
Sorry.
To his
Thanks,
Twitter
Mr.
feed or
Generous.
something.
Mr. Kuzmierczak, you are past the clock. Could you wrap up with a very brief question?
I just wanted to ask if some of that consulting is around the impact that, again, the conservatives meeting with far-right extremist groups from Germany, are we looking at the impact that has on anti-democratic
That is our... Yeah.
Point of order.
Mr. Kuzmierczak, I gave you twice to wrap up, and we're well past the time now. So unless I'm ready to move on to our next intervention. Was there a point of order, Mr. Brock, or is this settled?
Yes,
we can move on?
He's well past his time, and all he's doing is editorializing. He's not asking a question. Time to move on.
Yeah, we have finished. Not a point of order, thanks, but I appreciate you bringing up. We are now going to move to Ms. LaRouche for 2.5 minutes, please.